A chilly November morning, Ethan waits outside the school gates, shoulders slumped from another disappointment. His biological father never showed up for the parent-teacher meeting. The concrete steps feel cold under his feet as he stares at the empty road where other parents have already driven away. The sky is overcast, reflecting Ethan's mood. Classmates chatter in small clusters, exchanging stories about weekend plans, while Ethan stands alone, clutching a tattered notebook against his chest. He glances at the entrance every few seconds, hoping to see a familiar car, a familiar face, but the minutes tick by with no sign of his father. Suddenly, a car door closes nearby, and Ethan looks up to see Marcus, his stepdad, stepping out with steady, confident strides. Marcus carries a thermal mug filled with hot chocolate, steam curling in the cool air. He wears a worn jacket, a comforting sight that simply means he is here. Ethan's heart tightens in his chest, a mixture of relief, gratitude, and reluctance. He turns away quickly, but not before Marcus catches his eye and nods gently, as if to say, "I've got you." Marcus slides the mug into Ethan's hands, and Ethan feels the warm liquid seep through his gloves, offering a small reassurance. Inside the classroom, Ethan lingers by the doorway, avoiding eye contact with his teacher. He watches as Marcus speaks softly with her, answering questions about grades, behavior, and extracurricular interests. Marcus' expression is earnest. He listens carefully, nodding and taking notes in a small notepad. Ethan shifts uncomfortably, suddenly aware of the stares from classmates who whisper behind their hands, curiosity in their eyes. But Ethan doesn't feel embarrassed for long. He knows the truth. Marcus cares in a way his biological father never did. As the conversation wraps up, Marcus turns and gives Ethan a reassuring smile. They walk down the hallway together, footsteps echoing on the linoleum floor. Ethan takes a tentative sip of the hot chocolate, feeling the bittersweet taste spread warmth through his body. Marcus asks about his day, mentioning a homework assignment, asking if Ethan needs help. Ethan shrugs, mumbles that he's fine. Marcus laughs softly, the sound grounding Ethan in reality, reminding him that someone is on his side. When they exit the school, the sky has turned a darker shade of gray, promising rain. Marcus spreads his jacket over Ethan's shoulders, shielding him from the light drizzle that begins to fall. Ethan leans into Marcus as they head toward the car, the rhythmic drip of rain setting a calm, steady pace. His classmates have dispersed, leaving the courtyard almost empty. Ethan glances back at the closed gates, relieved that he didn't have to wait alone. He glances up at Marcus, catching him staring ahead with determination. Ethan realizes, once again, that Marcus will always show up, even when everyone else walks away. Ethan's mind settles with warmth, knowing somebody truly cares. In that moment, a fragile hope begins to kindle gently within him. Inside the classroom, Ethan lingers near the doorway, heart thumping as he watches the other students settle into their seats. The pale morning light filters through the windows, casting long shadows on the desks. He shifts from one foot to the other, anxiety wriggling in his stomach like a restless worm. Then he sees Marcus approach, straightening his back and lowering his voice to greet the teacher at the front of the room. Ethan's chest tightens as he realizes this is a moment everyone else's parent will have experienced, entering a classroom full of teachers, asserting that they care and that they're involved. For Ethan, however, this moment is different because his biological father never showed up. But Marcus is here, and that single fact reshapes everything. Marcus's voice is calm and steady as he introduces himself and confirms Ethan's class and section. The teacher nods, her expression professional but warm. She begins listing points: Ethan's attendance record, his recent grades on math quizzes, observations about his participation in group activities. Marcus listens intently, occasionally jotting down notes in a small notepad he carries in his jacket pocket. Ethan watches from the doorway, a mix of embarrassment and gratitude swirling in his chest. Classmates glance his way, some whispering curiosities. Who exactly is this man talking so earnestly with the teacher? Ethan can almost hear their silent questions. Is he really his dad? Ethan shifts his gaze to the floor, suddenly wishing he could disappear. As the teacher continues, Marcus asks a few thoughtful questions. Has Ethan been having trouble with homework? Are there any behavioral concerns to address? Ethan's teacher responds that Ethan is quiet and respectful, but sometimes hesitates to ask for help when he doesn't understand concepts. Marcus nods, then explains that he and Ethan have been spending extra time reviewing math problems at home. He mentions that Ethan often seems shy about admitting when he's stuck, which leads to frustration. Ethan squirms, cheeks flushing, but he knows Marcus is right. After a few more minutes, the teacher wraps up, handing Marcus a printed progress report. Marcus thanks her, offers a polite smile, then turns toward Ethan. He catches Ethan's eyes and gestures for him to join. Ethan steps forward, folding his arms as if to hide his relief. They walk together down the hallway, footsteps echoing off the walls. Ethan licks his lips, then blurts out, "I don't need help. I can do it on my own." Marcus pauses, tilts his head, and replies softly, "I know you're capable, buddy. But sometimes letting someone help you is part of being strong." Ethan's shoulders slump slightly as he takes in Marcus's words. They slow their pace near the lockers. Ethan hesitates, but then asks about a particular assignment, biology, which he's struggled with lately. Marcus crouches beside him and says, "I've got some notes from last night I thought might help. We can go over them tonight, if you want." Ethan nods, feeling a small surge of gratitude. Marcus stands and brushes a strand of hair from his eyes, then says casually, "If you're enjoying our story, don't forget to hit subscribe." Ethan rolls his eyes, but he can't hide the smile creeping onto his face. As they approach the exit, the hallway begins to empty of other students. Marcus drapes his jacket over Ethan's shoulders just as a light drizzle begins outside. Ethan feels the familiar warmth of Marcus's presence beside him and realizes once again that he's not alone. The day's weight feels lighter, and Ethan's steps toward the car are steadier than before. In the quiet between raindrops, he understands that having someone who cares, someone who listens without judgment, can change everything. A Saturday afternoon brings a crisp hint of winter wind, and Ethan laces up his worn sneakers as Marcus stands nearby, stretching his arms and cracking his knuckles. They arrive at the neighborhood basketball court, a cracked asphalt rectangle surrounded by chain-link fences, where kids gather to shoot hoops and test their skills. Ethan hesitates before stepping onto the court, his eyes flicking to the group of teens already playing. They glance at Ethan and Marcus, whispering behind cupped hands. Ethan's pulse quickens, and he looks down at his feet, shifting uneasily. Marcus senses Ethan's tension and offers a reassuring smile. He picks up an old basketball, its surface scuffed from years of use, and bounces it once before passing it to Ethan. Ethan catches it, feeling the familiar leather texture beneath his fingertips. Marcus positions himself near the free throw line, adjusts his grip, and tries a shot. He misses, the ball bouncing off the rim with a metallic clang. Ethan stifles a laugh, but Marcus simply grins, undeterred. "Give it a try," Marcus says, handing the ball back to Ethan. Ethan dribbles a few times, then lines up his shot. The ball arcs through the air and swishes through the hoop, eliciting a small cheer from a couple of younger kids watching from the sidelines. Ethan beams, chest swelling with pride. Marcus claps once, loud enough for the onlookers to notice, and says, "Nice shot, buddy." Encouraged, Marcus steps back and calls out, "One-on-one?" Ethan's eyes widen. He hasn't played against Marcus before. He nods, and the two square off at the top of the key. Ethan fakes left, then drives toward the basket, but Marcus anticipates his move and blocks his path with gentle but firm resistance. Ethan stumbles, regains balance, and dribbles back, determination blazing in his eyes. He manages a quick crossover, slipping past Marcus's defense, and scores another basket. The other teens pause their scrimmage to watch the mismatched duo. A tall, broad-shouldered man versus a slender white teenager. Some of the older kids snicker, nudging each other with questions like, "Is he really your dad?" Ethan shrugs, averting his gaze. Inside, his heart pounds. He hates being under a spotlight, but he forces himself to focus on the game. Marcus recovers quickly, intercepts a pass, and takes a shot. The ball clatters off the rim, but Marcus jumps for the rebound, tossing it back to Ethan. As they play, a small crowd forms around the court, drawn by the unexpected pairing. Ethan notices a kid in a hoodie whispering to a friend, "Why is he holding hands with that black guy?" Ethan's stomach twists, but he keeps dribbling, determined to ignore the comments. Marcus offers pointers between plays. "Keep your elbows in when you shoot," he says, "and trust your instincts." Ethan nods, absorbing every bit of advice. After several rounds, Marcus's breathing becomes heavier, and beads of sweat form at his hairline. Ethan wipes his brow, panting as well. Marcus turns and says, "You've got skills, way better than I expected." Ethan shrugs, cheeks reddening at the compliment. He glances at Marcus, his uncertainty melting into gratitude. For a moment, the whispers fade. It's just them and the rhythmic bouncing of the ball. Eventually, the cold begins to seep through their jackets. They call a truce and sit on the curb near the fence, legs dangling over the edge. Ethan sips from a water bottle, watching Marcus stare at the court, a thoughtful expression on his face. Marcus nudges him and says, "Want to grab some hot chocolate on the way home?" Ethan smiles, nods, and stands. He grabs the ball, tosses it once in Marcus's direction, and catches it, a signal of camaraderie. As they leave the court behind, Ethan walks a little taller, chest lighter. He knows that regardless of what others think or say, this afternoon was theirs alone, a shared victory in a world that often questions their bond. A few days after the basketball court afternoon, a steady drizzle turns the neighborhood into a sea of puddles. Ethan stands at the edge of the garage, staring at the old wooden door that Marcus swung open. Inside, the confined space is warm and cluttered with tools, wrenches hanging from hooks on the wall, paint cans stacked in one corner, and a workbench littered with screws and metal parts. Marcus has turned this garage into a makeshift workshop, complete with a small radio playing low-volume classic tunes. Ethan's breath catches as he steps inside, suddenly uneasy at the unfamiliar sense of motor oil and paint thinner mingling in the air. Marcus spots Ethan lingering at the entrance and waves him in. "Come on, buddy," he says, voice steady. "Let's see what we can fix today." Ethan follows Marcus to the back wall, where an old skateboard rests against a stack of boxes. Its faded graphics and worn-down wheels hint at years of neglect. Ethan remembers tossing it into the closet months ago, disappointed that it never felt quite right for him. Now, as he looks at it again, he feels a twinge of curiosity mixed with uncertainty. Marcus kneels beside the skateboard and inspects the wheels, turning them gently with his fingers. "Looks like these bearings are shot," he says. He grabs a small wrench and loosens the axle nuts, careful not to strip the threading. Ethan crouches beside him, watching intently as Marcus places each wheel on a rag, wiping away grime and rust with a grease-stained cloth. The process is methodical. Marcus explains how worn bearings can make the board feel unstable, reducing its speed and control. Ethan nods, absorbing every detail, though his hands remain in his pockets, reluctant to get dirty. Once the wheels are off, Marcus sets them aside and picks up a metal tool called a bearing puller. He demonstrates how to grip each wheel and extract the old bearings, explaining to Ethan why new bearings will improve performance. Ethan reaches out, hesitates, then gently takes the tool from Marcus's hand. His fingertips brush against Marcus's grease-smeared palm, and he feels a strange surge of pride and belonging. Under Marcus's guidance, Ethan manages to remove the last bearing. Marcus beams and says, "See, you've got the knack for this." Ethan's cheeks warm, and he mumbles, "Thanks." Next, Marcus grabs a small tin containing fresh bearings. He shows Ethan how to apply a drop of lubricant to each bearing before pressing them into the wheels using a makeshift press on the workbench. Ethan crouches, palms pressed to his knees, focusing so intently he almost forgets to breathe. Once all 4 bearings sit snugly inside the wheels, Marcus reattaches them to the axles, tightening the nuts until the skateboard rolls smoothly. Ethan picks up the board, rolls it across the cement floor, and watches as it glides effortlessly. He grins, feeling accomplishment bubble inside him. Marcus praises Ethan's work. "You did most of it," he says, ruffling Ethan's hair. "I just showed you how." Ethan looks down at the skateboard, then up at Marcus, feeling a new sense of respect. Marcus turns on the radio louder and grabs a paintbrush dipped in vibrant blue paint. He begins adding fresh designs to the deck, turning the board's tired surface into an explosion of colors. Ethan watches, fascinated, and then asks if he can help. Marcus hands him a fine-tip brush and guides his hand as they trace a neat outline for a geometric pattern. As the afternoon light fades through the garage window, Marcus pauses and says casually, "If you're enjoying this, you should subscribe to my day repair channel. I post tutorials just like this." Ethan rolls his eyes, but a small smile tugs at his lips. He sets down the skateboard and retrieves a rag to wipe excess paint, feeling unexpectedly content. The garage, once a place of clutter and noise, now feels like their shared haven. A workshop where Marcus not only teaches mechanical skills, but also shows Ethan the patience and care behind every fix. Mid-December arrives, and a thin, soft blanket of snow covers the street. Ethan steps out from the house, mug of hot cocoa warming his hands. His breath puffs in little white clouds as he rubs his arms against the icy air. Marcus stands nearby, wearing a thick coat and knitted hat. He offers Ethan a reassuring nod and brushes a handful of snow off his jacket. Ethan pulls his scarf higher, the cold nibbling at his cheeks, but seeing Marcus beside him makes him feel a bit braver. They walk down the driveway toward the neighborhood park, where children and teens gather for an impromptu snowball fight. The park feels alive. Laughter echoes under frost-covered trees, and small forts of packed snow stand ready. Ethan slips on boots that are still one size too big, his heels sliding slightly with every step. He winces and stops. Marcus crouches, pulling up the boot laces snugly around Ethan's ankles, tying a double knot to keep them secure. "Stay warm," Marcus murmurs, tucking a strand of Ethan's hair under the scarf. Ethan nods, swallowing his nerves. As they approach the cleared area, the sounds of bundled-up voices rise. Some kids are already hurling snowballs, while others carve shields from blocks of packed snow. Ethan grips his first snowball, feeling its cool weight. Marcus stands behind him, scanning the crowd for opponents. Ethan's friends are nearby, shouting good-natured taunts. Breath visible in the cold air, Ethan shuffles forward, looking for a spot to defend. Marcus positions himself close, offering silent encouragement. Suddenly, a well-packed snowball slams into the ground behind Ethan, spraying flakes into the air. He jumps, heart pounding. Two older teens stand smirking, their snowballs ready. One calls out, "Are you hiding behind your black stepdad today, white boy?" Laughter ripples through their group. Ethan's cheeks burn, and he lowers his gaze. Marcus notices immediately and steps between Ethan and the taunting teens. He plants a hand gently on Ethan's shoulder, guiding him toward a mound of snow. "Come this way," Marcus says softly, leading Ethan behind the bank of piled snow. They crouch low, knees pressing into the cold ground. Marcus leans close, voice calm but firm. "Ignore their words. Don't give them power. Make sure you're safe but still have fun." Ethan nods, drawing a shaky breath. He closes his eyes for a moment, recalling Marcus's steady presence whenever he felt alone. Opening his eyes, he molds a fresh snowball, packing it tightly with gloved hands. His fingers tingle from the cold, but determination sparks in his eyes. Marcus keeps watch, scanning the field. Ethan inches forward, snowball raised. He exerts force, letting it fly. The snowball arcs through the air and hits one of the taunting teens squarely on the shoulder. A sharp crack echoes, and the teen stumbles back, surprised. Ethan's heart leaps as cheers erupt among his friends. He glances at Marcus, whose face breaks into a proud grin. Ethan's initial embarrassment dissolves into exhilaration. Marcus claps and calls out, "Great shot, Ethan." His voice carries across the park, drawing smiles from onlookers. Ethan's chest swells with pride. A few kids on the sidelines clap in approval, and even the rivals exchange grudging nods. Marcus gestures that Ethan should keep playing, then steps back to give him space. Ethan charges forward, feeling a rush of confidence he's never known before. As snowflakes drift down around them, Ethan realizes that with Marcus by his side, he can face anything, no matter how cold or challenging the world might seem. Mid-December arrives with crisp air and shorter days, and Ethan's mother invites the extended family for a small holiday dinner at their house. The living room fills with the hum of conversation as relatives settle around the long wooden table, its surface gleaming with dishes of roasted vegetables, spiced rice, and steaming bread. A garland of twinkling lights hangs above the table, casting a gentle glow over every face. Ethan's grandparents sit at one end, murmuring greetings, while aunts, uncles, and cousins occupy the remaining chairs. Ethan stands beside the table, adjusting the placement of silverware, feeling both excitement and apprehension as he glances at Marcus, who waits patiently for the dinner to begin. At the head of the table, Ethan's mother raises her hands for everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming," she says softly, her eyes lingering on Ethan and Marcus. "We're grateful to spend this evening together." Forks clink against plates as the family begins eating, and laughter bubbles up with each shared memory of childhood holidays. Ethan picks at his food, nibbling on the roasted carrots, while Marcus leans forward, engaging in polite conversation with Ethan's aunt. The aroma of cinnamon and cardamom drifts from the kitchen, and a cousin comments on the delicious aroma of homemade desserts. Ethan's chest tightens as he wonders if tonight will be different, if the unspoken question about Marcus will finally surface. After a few minutes, Ethan's uncle leans back, studying Marcus with curious eyes. "So Marcus," he says, voice casual but loud enough for the table to hear, "how does it feel to be a stepdad to a white boy?" Silence follows for a heartbeat. Marcus looks up from his plate, brushing a crumb from his lip, and replies evenly, "It feels like I'm part of something special. Ethan's taught me more than I ever expected." Ethan studies the rim of his glass, cheeks burning. The question lingers in the air, and some relatives exchange glances. Ethan's grandmother clears her throat and changes the subject to holiday plans, but the words echo in Ethan's mind. Inside, Ethan struggles to find words. He watches Marcus's calm expression, how he reaches across the table to squeeze Ethan's hand gently. Ethan realizes Marcus's answer is honest, full of pride and affection, even if it wasn't the direct acknowledgement he wanted. Still, he can't help blurting out. Voice quiet but steady, "He's just filling in." The words hang awkwardly. A few relatives raise their eyebrows, and an uneasy hush falls over the table. Ethan's mother glances at him with concern, and Marcus's hand tightens around Ethan's, supporting him without saying a word. After a moment, Marcus lifts his head and smiles warmly at Ethan. "Filling in can mean a lot of things," he says, voice gentle. "I choose to show up, to support, and to love. That's not just filling in, that's being family." Ethan's throat catches as the weight of Marcus's words settles around him. He looks down at the patterned tablecloth, the embroidered design blurring with unshed tears. His cousins resume their chatter about gifts and travel, but Ethan barely hears them. In that instant, he understands Marcus's role goes far beyond temporary support. It's a promise to be there, day in and day out. The rest of the dinner passes in a comfortable blur. Marcus shares a funny story about Ethan's recent science fair mishap, and cousins laugh, their curiosity giving way to acceptance. Ethan listens as Marcus speaks with quiet confidence, realizing how genuine his stepdad's care is. Later, when the plates are cleared and dessert is served, a cinnamon apple pie, Ethan catches Marcus's eye and offers a small, sincere smile. He no longer feels the need to shrink behind words like, "just filling in." Instead, he silently acknowledges the truth. Marcus is here because he chose to be, and that choice means more than any biological tie. Late January brings the much-anticipated science fair at Ethan's school. Early in the morning, Ethan carefully places his homemade weather station on the long row of folding tables in the auditorium. The room is large and echoing, fluorescent lights overhead casting a cool glow on the polished floor. Steam drifts from thermoses set on nearby tables, and students hustle around, adjusting displays ranging from model volcanoes to robotic arms. Ethan's project, a wooden frame holding temperature and humidity sensors wired to a small screen, looks modest compared to some elaborate setups. He takes a deep breath, smoothing the wires with careful fingers, but uncertainty coils in his chest. As the judges begin their rounds, teachers and local scientists in crisp jackets, Ethan's nerves tangle tighter. He presses the on switch, and for a brief moment, the light flickers before fading to black. Panic flares as he taps the sensors, but nothing responds. Moments tick by like slow shudders, and Ethan's heart pounds so loudly he wonders if the judges can hear it. They pause in front of his display, clipboards in hand. Ethan stares at the dark screen, throat dry, unsure how to explain. Suddenly, Marcus appears at the edge of the table, carrying a small, well-worn toolbox. His stepdad's face is calm and kind. He crouches behind Ethan, glancing at the judges with a discreet nod before focusing on the wiring. "What's going on?" Marcus asks in a low voice, hovering so only Ethan can hear. Ethan whispers, "It just died." The screen went black. Marcus doesn't hesitate. He unscrews the panel at the back of the display, revealing a loose connection at the power terminal. With steady, practiced hands, he tightens a tiny screw and reattaches a frayed wire, securing each connection with a gentle twist. Judges lean in curious, but Ethan holds his breath. Marcus reconnects the power supply and steps back. The light hums to life, digits flickering across the screen as real-time data appears. 21 degrees Celsius, 43% humidity. Relief rushes through Ethan like warm sunlight. The judges offer polite smiles, scribble notes on their clipboards, and begin asking questions about his design. Marcus remains behind Ethan, a silent pillar of support as Ethan steps forward. "What inspired your project?" One judge asks. Ethan straightens, adrenaline sharpening his voice. "I wanted to create an affordable weather station to help local farmers monitor conditions in real time without expensive equipment." Echoing applause from a few peers drifts across the room. The judges examine the sensor's calibration and request a demonstration. Ethan follows Marcus's recent advice, fetching a small cup of ice water from a nearby table. He tips the temperature sensor in, and the display quickly stabilizes around 0 degrees. Judges nod approvingly, impressed by the hands-on demonstration. Marcus watches with pride as Ethan fields questions about data accuracy, how analog signals convert to digital readouts, and ways to improve future iterations. Ethan's explanations flow smoothly, his initial panic replaced by confidence bolstered by Marcus's silent guidance. After the judges finish, they move on to the next project, leaving Ethan and Marcus alone. Ethan exhales, tension draining from his shoulders. Marcus places a hand on Ethan's back, shaking it gently. "You held it together." Ethan offers a grateful smile. Later that afternoon, winners are announced in the gym. Ethan's name isn't called for first place, but he's recognized with a commendation for Best Original Design under budget. He steps onto the small stage to receive a certificate, cheeks flushed with pride. Marcus stands among the parents and students, clapping and beaming. Catching Marcus's eye, Ethan knows this moment wouldn't have happened without him. As they walk out of the school, Marcus wraps an arm around Ethan's shoulders. Ethan leans in, voice warm. "Thanks for stepping in." Marcus squeezes him and replies softly, "You did the work. I just helped fill in a few gaps." Ethan nods, realizing that Marcus's steadfast presence changed everything, turning uncertainty into achievement and demonstrating that family is defined by support, not just biology. As winter recedes into early spring, Ethan makes his way home along the familiar sidewalks of his neighborhood. The air carries a faint warmth, and tiny buds appear on the bare branches that once stood stark against the cold sky. Ethan's footsteps echo softly on the pavement as he replays memories of the past months, moments of tension, laughter, and unexpected growth. With each step, he remembers Marcus waiting at the school gates, offering hot chocolate when Ethan's hands chip from disappointment. He thinks of the basketball court where Marcus tried and missed, but kept encouraging Ethan to keep playing, even when others whispered questions that stung his pride. As he approaches the house, the front porch lights glow against the dimming sky. Inside, he can smell the faint scent of pancakes cooking on the griddle, his mother preparing an early dinner. Ethan opens the door quietly and steps into the living room, where Marcus sits on the couch engrossed in a book about simple electrical circuits. Marcus looks up, smiles, and sets the book aside, patting the cushion beside him. Ethan hesitates only a moment. This is the man who showed up every time Ethan's biological father did not. "Hey," Marcus says softly, "you okay?" Ethan steps closer, dropping his backpack by the door. He runs a hand through his hair and takes a deep breath. "I've been thinking," he says, voice low but steady. Marcus nods, leaning forward, elbows on his knees. "About what?" "Everything," Ethan replies. "I've thought about all the times you were there. You took me to the science fair when my project almost failed. You fixed my skateboard when I thought it was useless. You stood by me when I felt embarrassed at the holiday dinner." Ethan pauses, searching for the right words. "I always said you were just filling in. But I realize now that it wasn't just filling in. You chose to be here. You chose to support me." Marcus' eyes soften. He reaches out and places a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "I did choose," he says, "and I'm glad you see that." Ethan sinks onto the couch beside him. He looks down at their hands, one large and calloused, the other smaller and still growing. "I never realized how much it means to have someone who shows up, no matter what. I used to think biology defined family. Now I know it's about action. Being there, listening, being patient when I shut down." Marcus squeezes his shoulder. "You taught me about patience too. You showed me what it's like to worry about a project display going dark right in front of judges. You showed me how to navigate tough questions when people judge our bond. I learned from you as much as you learned from me." Ethan lifts his gaze, meeting Marcus's eyes. For the first time, he feels the weight of his own words and the warmth of acceptance from someone who saw him at his worst and refused to leave. "I guess that's what I want you to know," Ethan whispers. "Thank you for choosing me, for never walking away." Marcus leans back, pulling Ethan into a side hug. The simple embrace holds all the unspoken moments, the garage repairs, the snowball battle strategies, the late-night talks after school. Ethan closes his eyes, listening to the quiet hum of the house, the soft ticking of a clock in the hallway. Outside, the first star of the evening appears, tiny and steady. They sit in companionable silence until Ethan's mother calls from the kitchen. Pancakes are ready. Ethan stands, offers Marcus a shy grin and says, "Let's go eat." Marcus stands too, adjusting his sleeves and nodding. As they walk toward the kitchen, Ethan realizes that family is not a simple label. It is forged through moments of resilience, kindness, and unwavering presence. In that realization, he feels hope bloom brighter than any spring bud.